Today's guest is Sarah Anderson, who is someone who purchased the daily devotional and decided to come into the private Facebook group for support. She is a working 47-year-old mom who initially offered to share a story for the next book that's being written. But later, we decided to do a podcast interview. I really love her story because it's so typical of many stories I hear about how a casual relationship with alcohol turns into a problem relationship with alcohol. She loved the mindset approach and shift that the devotional provided to her and wanted to share all of the beautiful transformations she experienced through this journey. So let's listen in. It is so nice to have you here, Sarah. This is actually our second attempt at recording. We recorded something previously, and then when I went to look, it's like, oh, so we just got to know each other. So we're going to do it as if we never had the conversation again. But I love that because the first time we recorded, it wasn't for the purpose of a podcast, right? It was just
Right.
for the purpose of, maybe getting some ideas that we could use inside the next book that's coming. But I think it was God's plan to do a podcast, right?
Yes.
Welcome and thank you for doing this.
Thank
So
you.
I want to start with just having people know something about you, like who you are, where you're from, married, not married, kids, not kids, that kind of stuff, and then we'll get started.
Okay. I am originally from the Rockford, Illinois area, which for people who don't know, it's dead center, right on the border of Illinois and Wisconsin. Grew up there all my life, and we moved down to central Illinois area about I think it's 7 years ago now. My husband and I moved for his job. We have one son who just turned 18.
Yay,
So
congratulations.
that's a big deal for mom. But he's just the coolest kid. It's been lots of fun to raise him. It's probably the most fun I've ever had is raising a boy. So yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just the nutshell, I guess, of
And you're a working mom?
I am a working mom. Yep. I work full time at a company that manufactures fire hydrants, actually.
Oh,
So
cool.
it's pretty cool. Yep. I'm admin assistant in an office of about 36 people. So we are very unique in that we all get along wonderfully. It's
Oh, well,
a big
that
thing.
comes from the top.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And our boss she's top notch. I love her very much.
Oh, that's wonderful. It sounds like a great niche too. Like not everyone wants to get into the
No.
fire hydrant manufacturing business. So very, very cool.
Yeah.
So, you actually have just been successful in completing a 12-week challenge
Yep.
for putting alcohol to the side. And I know you posted inside our private Facebook group, and this girl ain't going back. So
Yep.
I love that. I love that. So inspiring to so many who keep trying to figure out how to start the process.
Yeah.
So you want to give us a little history about your drinking habits and, historically, and then what caused you to go, not a good thing.
Yeah. Sure. So I grew up, both my parents worked. They remained together all my upbringing, up until my dad passed away a couple years ago. They'd been married that whole time. Dad, he'd always come home from work, and he would his relaxing was to crack open a beer and, have a few beers from the time he got home until dinner time. We'd have dinner. He'd go back down to watch TV and finish his night having beers. And to grow up with that, you don't really think anything of it when you're young. But as I got older, I could, you kind of start to see things, and I could tell there was, it did cause friction for sure.
Mhm.
I didn't get the extent of it at the time. But obviously looking back, hindsight's 2020. So that's kind of probably where I know that's where I was first exposed to alcohol. And then as, into the teen years, I probably had my first drink maybe junior, senior year of high school, just, social events or parties, or I was never a big high school partier, but when in Rome, when you're in there and you're wanting to fit in and all of that. So that was probably like my first experience socially with it. And then from there, it was just what you did to have a good time. It was just always around. I think our culture is just very saturated with it, even in my high school years. Um, and then, I met my husband, and it was the same thing. We were young, we were in our 20s. You'd go out on the weekends, and then we got married and had kids, and we had a friend group that they were married and they were having kids, and we'd all get together on the weekends and, hang out, cook food, and that's what we would do. Um, but it really wasn't until probably my son was a couple years old that I started probably, I would stay up after my son went to bed and after my husband went to bed, and I would just want to watch TV and have a few beers. And, that progressed into wine, and, gosh, then it was wine, and I'd finish a bottle of wine, and then I'd think, ooh, a little whiskey with some ice sounds good, and my threshold got, more and more and more so. And I would say about 10 years ago, I'll be 47. So about 10 years ago, I really started being like, well, maybe it's getting out of hand, but certainly
Mhm.
not enough for me to put it down. Um, and then I would say the last 3 years, I really have taken it seriously, and I really have that mental battle, um, of, wanting to put it down, but not being able to put it down. And it just really became, um, like you say in your devotional, a psychological slavery. But until I read your book, I could put a lot of other terminology with how I was feeling, but never that psychological slavery. And that's exactly what it has been. And just this constant, I'm talking the talk, but I'm not walking the talk. I have my faith. Um, I know scripture. I know what I should be doing, but to carry it out, especially that part, just seemed impossible. I think the
Yeah.
longest, the longest I'd ever made it before this time around was 90 days. But that was just like willpower, you know, just try. It was exhausting the first time I tried it. But this
Yeah.
time it just has been, I wanted to let it go, you know, not, I'm like, oh, I have to let this go. Yes, I had to let it go, but
You
I
get to.
wanted to let this go. Yeah. And now I just 95 days today. Um,
Yay.
and I have
Congratulations.
circled back to day one of your devotional this past Sunday, because I wanted to do it again with fresh eyes and a fresh heart and that mental clarity that I have now. So,
And it
so far,
does
it's
seem a little
awesome.
different, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's so funny. I was in the very beginning reading your acknowledgments, and you mentioned Bruce Lipton and you mentioned Caroline Leaf. And I don't even remember that from the first time I read it, but you and I talked about it just a couple weeks ago. And I'm like, well, duh.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was,
They
it was
they
pretty,
really had a great influence on me
yes,
and my thinking about it. And I just when people understand the science of the brain and then they see like God knew the science of the brain. He
right,
created us. And
right.
this is exactly, this process of aligning. with God, and it's this desire to do it, not
Right.
a I have to. And that's, if you did the core concepts there, that's one of the core concepts. I get to do this. I get
Yeah.
to see what God has a plan for. I don't have to. You can keep doing what you want.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
and
And you know
willpower is, and
what's
some
crazy is,
people, I did an interview, it's not published yet, with Erica Kelly, and I believe she quit on her own for a year with willpower, and she was still kind of miserable and did the devotional, and yeah, because it's a total shift in mindset about what's great in your life.
well, and you're not just willpower. I think you're having to grit your teeth through every social event, every really rough moment when life hits you with the curveballs. You're having to just grind through it. And this time around, it's been different. In fact, these last 2 weeks since you and I spoke last, my sister ended up in critical care. My son, she's okay. My son turned 18. That was hard for me. And my husband went through another really big low in his depression. And any one of those things singularly would have sent me to the bottle. And to have all that happen in these last couple of weeks, and the desire wasn't there to go do.
That's amazing, and
Yeah,
that is
that's
really
been huge for me.
practicing.
Yes, yeah. And instead, go continuing my morning devotion time and continuing to work out, because I know that that really helps me, especially mindset, and just turning towards the things that I know are going to keep me fueled through the tough stuff instead of making it that much worse.
Right.
Yeah.
What was the turning point for you to say, I'm serious?
Oh gosh. Okay. So it was the Sunday after Thanksgiving. And I knew I was going to start your devotional, but I also knew, oh my gosh, the holidays were stressful, but that Sunday after, we knew we were going to have good friends over, and we had a grand old time. And I first started out with beer, I think, and then she brought over a fun bottle of wine. And so we dipped into that. And of course, we finished that. And so then I turned to the whiskey, and I obviously had way too much. And I woke up at 3 o'clock that morning with just terrible thoughts, scary thoughts. I'm gonna die. I was so anxious, and it was never a rock bottom thing for me. It
Yeah.
was just more of a slow fade. And I just really strongly felt like I'm going to die if I don't get this under control. I am at the age, I'm, going to be 47. You know, women, I think, have more of a medical history related with alcohol and heart disease, especially at middle age.
How
And
about breast cancer too,
yeah,
believe it or not?
exactly, huge, increase in your risk of breast cancer. And I've got so much more life to live in me and things that I want to do. And I knew that it was probably going to be a little bit difficult, but if I could just get to the other side, if I could just get to the other side of it. And that was the morning that I started your devotional.
What things did you try prior?
Um, oh gosh, just cold turkey, willpower. I've always had a morning routine. But and devotionals are very, I love them. They're very powerful to me to begin my day like that. Yours was the first devotional that I found that was, the plans he has for me, which is my favorite verse, by the way. So that immediately brought my eye to your book, and the fact that it's scripture-based, it's structural. I work well off structure, gratitude-based,
Right.
and, just sobriety driven. So I'm like, well, give it a shot.
And it worked. It
And it
worked.
just has, kept me grounded and just,
So what's been the result? I always, and I love the fact that you say it's not like I hit rock bottom. And this is
Yeah.
kind of a lot of the audience that I'm trying to get to. I was in pretty bad shape myself, but what's a rock bottom? Maybe
right,
when you have no other choice, maybe when you're diagnosed, maybe when I
lost everything,
losing your spouse, or when you've lost all your money, when you've lost your job. I don't know what rock bottom is, right? But I was in pretty bad shape, and I probably could have gone maybe another 5, who knows, 10 years without addressing it. And I know the reasons. I was having a hard time finding something that could help me other than you're an alcoholic and you need to do this forever.
right.
Were you, I guess, first of all, I want to ask you, was that helpful in just saying a 12-week challenge instead of forever?
You know, um, I don't know if that was so much it, because I think I was ready anyways. You know, 12 weeks just happened to be the time frame of your book.
Okay.
I think I did, and circling back to what I had tried in the past, I did attend a couple of AA meetings. I just felt like it wasn't a right fit for me because I mean, words really have meaning to me. And one of the first things you say, hi, my name is so and so, and I'm an alcoholic. I I did not feel comfortable claiming that,
Yeah.
consistently claiming that over my life. It's never felt right to me. It's never sat right to me. I do attend Celebrate Recovery, which that's been very helpful also. But the more and more you and I talk about mindset and not labeling and the fact that we're all messed up in some way,
Right.
it's just been, I'm not going to put myself in a box with,
Right.
and
You're a
and
child of God.
exactly.
You're broken because of original sin, and you're saved because of Jesus,
Yeah.
and we're all in recovery of some
Right.
sort from
I'm not,
something.
I'm not some kind of defect, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
No, not even. You're some kind of you're a prize to
Yeah.
God. You know what I mean? And yeah, so let's get back to the uh the benefits that you found, because one of the things you posted is this girl ain't going back. So
The benefits. Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, um, the mental clarity, uh, things I noticed right away, I would say, my sleep. My sleep improved right away. And when you're getting good sleep, that just cycles into other things. Mental clarity, my skin looks better, my energy, awesome energy. Um, the the nagging thoughts that I would have over myself, not having that, that this guilt, like I'll be, wait a minute, I didn't drink last night. Why? And so and then that feeling would lift off me. Um, I'm down 10 pounds. That's kind of awesome.
yay.
Yep. And just replacing bad habits with better habits. I'm working out now. All the time that I would spend just, come home from work and want to pop open a, bottle of wine and numb out for the rest of the evening. Now I'm replacing with all these other things. My social life is, I've always been social, but now I feel like I'm like, maybe need to scale it back a little bit because I'm involved in like everything now. It's like, well, okay, I need to find some balance there. But I'm just very even tempered. Like even with everything that's happened these last 2 weeks with my sister and James turning 18 and my husband, I'm way more patient. I kind of sit back, take it all in before I respond. Whereas before I would just react, so that's been huge. I'm more even. I'm just more even and way more
It
happy.
does surprise you because that surprises your walk. When I hear you talk, it's almost exactly the same, even how you drank. But for me, it really surprised me. I thought that I was just an impatient person all the time. And when I put the drinking aside, and I'm like, wow, I'm a lot more calmer than I thought. Did that
Like mini
surprise you?
swings. Um, you know what? It's not something that I noticed at first, I don't think. It's just been this since these last 3 months have progressed, just kind of taking a step back and being like, oh, okay, I didn't just flip out at that. Whereas especially when, relationally when things get difficult, I would not say what was on my mind until it built to where I snapped. And now I'm just like, I say what's on my mind and I'm very careful how I say it.
Thank you.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of new.
So how I have to imagine that your relationship with your husband has gotten so much better.
Actually, well, it has definitely been a challenge because our recreation is boating and being on the lake and
Mm,
everybody meets up at these certain spots and everybody's partying and I feel like odd man out. And it's challenged us because he doesn't feel like he should have to give up his drinking because it's not a problem for him. So that's kind of been a battle. But we don't fight about it, but there's just this, I feel like it's created a little bit of a wedge and we're
yeah, but there's
having to just, we're having to kind of reevaluate what kind of fun we want to have together,
yeah. And those things aren't snap your fingers and it's done. When there's
Yeah.
two people involved, there's kind of discussion, which now you can have without,
Right.
reaction. There's realization, there's more discussion, there's
He's super proud of me.
compromises, there's all kinds of things
Yeah.
when relationships are in play.
He is really proud of me and he tells me how proud he is of me and that he knows it's not been an easy thing for me to do. He tells me that, he sees the difference in me. He knows I'm doing good. He knows I'm doing healthy. And he is definitely happy for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder if just like you and I, we couldn't imagine, like, life is supposed to be with alcohol.
Yeah.
And it's going to take him a while to see through that different lens. Like, wait, maybe time, going out to dinner with you or whatever, and
Yeah.
maybe you're both not drinking. Wait, this is okay. So it's you being the leader in this particular case. And I've seen that happen a lot over
Yeah.
time where one, because you don't know what the other one's going to do, and one has to take it into their own hands for their own reasons, and
Right.
then eventually the other follows, and
Yeah.
it's incredible, but we have to give everybody else space to see
Right.
what we see. And I just
And
think,
I've never once been like, well, you need to give, I
yeah,
never even told him that I was doing this to start with. I just stopped.
wow.
Because I felt like I needed to be in a certain place in my head. And as soon as if I would have said something, he would have been like, well, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? How come you feel? And I didn't want attention drawn to it. I just needed to keep it for my own for a little bit.
How did you explain you weren't drinking then?
He noticed. I think he just knew to not ask questions.
Interesting.
Yeah, because the first time I tried to do a 90-day and he wanted to talk about it all the time. And I'm just like, part of me was like, just leave it alone. But I just needed it for me. And I think both my husband and my son noticed, but just let me be. And that was really kind of a gift to me. So
Yeah, and that's so funny, because a lot of people say they quit and they want more input and
mhm,
congratulations. And but the thing you did say that I love is that I wanted to focus on me, and that's always, and me too, you always you want all these outside things to be just right for you, but it's like, no, this is just about my journey.
yeah,
Because when you get better, everything gets better around you.
yeah.
Everybody communicates better with you. How about your son?
Oh my
What's kind
gosh. We work out together sometimes. I'll tell him, hey, I'm on day such and such, and he'll high five me and encourage me to keep going. I probably have been more vocal with him about it. Just because he's 18 now. He's at the age where it grabs a lot of these kids.
of?
And I just want him to know it's not worth it. It's just not. You can do all of these things and
And
have
more.
fun doing them and more and feel good and be good to your body. You don't need it. So yeah, he's awesome. I love him so
Uh,
much. Yeah, he's great. He's great.
did
Very
either of
supportive.
them complain about the drinking beforehand, or was it all in
Well,
internal?
you know, my husband has like his own vices that he will use to numb out. So you know, we just had this kind of mutual understanding. You've got your thing, I've got my thing. We are in no position to judge each other.
Right.
Um,
And we
my,
all have our vices, right?
yeah,
We all. Doesn't
exactly.
matter. We all have something. I
Yeah.
don't care if it's chocolate cake, internet, binge watching
Yeah.
TVs, cell
Shopping.
phones, checking email. It's all. And
Yeah.
that's what I would like to bring light to more
Yeah.
is weight issues, whatever it is.
Right.
Everybody's battling something.
Well, I did know that James, like, I could tell, like, if him and I would have a conversation the morning after, like, we'd been out or had friends over, James and I would be talking and he would be like, Mom, we had a whole conversation about it last night.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you for reminding me
Yeah.
that. Oh my gosh, my daughter, she's like, I told you that last night, and I was
Yeah.
just so
So
horrified.
stuff, I'm having full conversations that I don't remember. And he even, like, this has even happened in front of his friends that he would have over. Like I would do just goofy, dumb stuff, nothing ever inappropriate, but just be an idiot, and not even remember the next morning. And he'd be like, Mom, do you know what you did last night? Like, I'd be like, what? And I was just dancing silly or just silly stuff. And I would be like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that in front of your friend. And I didn't have any recollection of it. So
Yeah,
that,
I would have, it wasn't so much that, but I'd have complete conversations with my daughter about what she was going to do the weekend.
Yeah.
And then I'd go, honey, what are you doing this weekend? It's like, Mom, I just told you that last night. And whew,
yeah,
talk about a reality check, you
yeah.
know?
And that happened a lot to me towards the end of things before I started sobriety. That was a common thing. And I'm just like, the more I read about it, it just felt like, okay, I'm not passing out drunk. I am functioning. I am awake physically,
You have
but
a job, you have
nothing,
everything.
right.
Yeah.
But nothing was, you reach a point when you're drinking where stuff quits registering. And that's where I was at when we would, have people over or go out at night or whatever. And that just, to me, it's like, that was scary to me. I don't
It
want to
is scary.
miss whole parts of interacting with people. So,
Right.
yeah.
And yet this is what we define as we hadn't hit rock bottom. Isn't that funny?
Oh,
Because that's a
exactly.
pretty bad state,
Yeah.
right?
Like what is rock bottom in my mind then? Good
Forgetting
Lord.
complete conversation, like are we both in denial?
Yeah. Do I have to be complete, park bench paper bag kind of thing? I'm
That's
laughing,
as
but
a
it's like,
parent, that's a pretty rock bottom
yeah,
moment,
I
right?
guess, I guess so. Yeah. Well, I'm glad we had
Um,
this talk. I have more to work on. No.
um, what else did I want to ask you? Claire, have you picked up anything in its place? It sounds like better relationships, better conversations, more productivity. Have you focused on anything that you've wanted to do?
Um,
Maybe.
you know, it's funny. I have always loved dance. And for a long time, I don't know, maybe the last 3 years, I'll be like, wouldn't it be so fun to lead like a dance aerobics class or something? While I'm just about to talk to the local the guy who runs our local gym, because they have a wonderful space that's not being utilized like it could. I emailed him and he told me to give him a call, and I want to talk to him about, you know, holding something like that in his space. I just think that would be absolutely phenomenal. I would love to write a book about my experience, but I wouldn't even know the first thing of how to do that, but
Oh, you know
maybe
what?
it
It's
can
just
happen.
you start with a lined piece of paper if you want. You just start writing thoughts. The messier, the better. And
Yeah.
you gather your thoughts and yeah, there's no magic. I've talked to a lot of people. I mean, professional writers, maybe they're on deadlines and
Yeah.
but in terms of, yeah, you just start writing down ideas or
Yeah.
chapters or,
I just
yeah.
think there's so many people who could benefit, especially women in the professional, um, culture, working women, working moms. And I think there's a struggle there, and I think it needs to be known that it's more common than you think. You're not defective. There's not something wrong with you. And you're not the only one out there who might be thinking it's an issue. I
Well,
think
and
it's way more common than what we think.
I have a very unscientific methodology of, getting information, but the more I talk to people like you and compare it to my own experience, I mean, this is scary that I think a lot of people are negotiating with it for a
Oh,
decade.
yeah.
That's
Oh,
a long time to negotiate with something.
yeah.
And over that 10 years, I'm going to tell you what happened to me. We'll see if your experience is different. My confidence in myself decreased. My
Mm,
drinking increased,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
My health decreased, my weight increased, my blood pressure, those are all the things that happened over the decade that I started trying to negotiate everything. And,
Yeah.
I did those things happen to you over a decade
Oh,
too?
all of the above.
Right.
All of the above. And I think it even more so about, gosh, it's going on 4 years ago, 3 years ago. I went through a course to become a nutrition coach.
Oh,
But this was always a thing. It's like, how am I going to lead somebody to be the best version of themselves or just to feel good about themselves when I can't get my stuff together? So that kind of hit hard.
I
And then
think based on what I've seen, I think over 50% of nutrition coaches are drinking. And
oh,
really, there is such an oxymoron going on there
yeah.
because there is no nutritional benefit that I've seen in
No,
alcohol.
I don't care what they say. The amount of, what is it, resveratrol or whatever that you read in some of these articles, you'd have to be drinking like bottles of wine. So I was probably good there for a while. But I think the more I learn about what alcohol can do to your body full scale, why would anybody want to touch it? I mean, it's, I
Well,
think you,
that's it. Like when we start, we have no idea. It's just
yeah,
something that everybody does. It's legal, it's expected and sure. And
yeah, it
oh,
makes me
wow, this
feel
makes me
good.
feel.
Yeah. Why wouldn't I want to do this? I feel amazing for that, 45 minutes in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this will eventually happen, but I'd love to see labels on warning labels on alcohol like they do on cigarettes.
Yeah.
This potentially causes cancer. This is an addictive substance. This
Yeah.
blah 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 blah.
You
I
know,
mean, it's coming.
yeah, I don't know if this was a commercial that I saw somewhere or if it was like a public service announcement or maybe I'm just making it up. I don't I don't know, but picture a bar with people sitting around having, and they've all got their drinks in front of them and whatever. And just think about how you would feel if you saw a commercial like that, or your average everyday person see a commercial like that. Take the same setting, remove the glasses, and put a line of cocaine. How
And
well
that
would that
kind,
be received? Um,
yeah.
and I just think culturally, we just it's just become so normalized and interwoven into every social thing that we do. Um, Not every, but a good majority of it. So that's
Well, and there is a lot of stress and problems in the world.
yeah,
And the fact is that can allow us to check out
yeah,
and maybe be a little looser
right,
and have fun and calm our central nervous system. So that's why it's addictive because
right,
initially it works. I mean, yeah, initially it works at what you're looking for. And you go, well, let's do it again. Let's do it
yeah,
again. Let's do it again,
yeah. And I mean, in no way, shape, or form am I going to, you know, judge somebody if they drink or tell them that they need to put it down. No way. That's not, I mean, everybody has their own thing. I just know how I feel about it.
Yeah, I know. I 100% agree. I don't want to be in a situation, although it's hard when I'm a coach, but
Right.
before anybody knew that, I was fine in my same social circles. I think they were proud of me, actually.
Yeah.
It's just when I became a coach that it became a little bit more uncomfortable. Like, wait, she's teaching people how not to drink. Maybe she wants to teach me how not to drink.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So for people who are listening, what do you think is the most important thing that you'd like to share with them about the journey?
Oh my gosh. Um, it's not impossible. It, it's not impossible. I thought for a long time, I thought there's no way I'm ever going to be able to get rid of this. This is always going to have a hold on me. I mean, I really was there in my head. And, I don't know what the smoking gun was this time around, but I honestly like just keep going. You can do this. You can do this. Set yourself up, especially when you might be going into situations where you're going to be tempted. I think setting yourself up for success is huge. Giving yourself grace is huge. Surrounding yourself with people that support you, that's pretty huge. Um,
How about having a future vision of something different for yourself?
oh my gosh, yes. Yeah,
That was my biggest uh motivator. I
yeah,
wanted to see somebody different.
yeah. And what's so amazing, and I think I wrote something about this on your Facebook page the other day. It's like I used to envision this me on the horizon, and I felt like I was always reaching, and I couldn't reach her. Well, now I've reached her and she's back there.
Yeah. Oh, you reached her and went beyond. And
Right.
that
And
is,
I'm waiting for, the next girl. I'm just constantly, you know, looking at myself on the horizon, you
yeah,
know?
I like to say, well, what's next, God?
Yeah.
What's next?
Yeah.
And that I think if you follow me on Facebook, as it is something I like to say over and over again when people say, well, I tried 2 weeks and I couldn't do it.
Oh,
And I'm like, you've got to be committed to something different for yourself, to
yeah.
see what is possible at the end of this 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't see, even though you say, well, the 12 weeks didn't matter, if you had finished the 12 weeks and didn't see something different enough, it may have been difficult for you to continue,
Well,
right?
and to me, like for the person who says, they're looking at, the remaining 10 weeks instead of the 2 weeks that they just finished,
Yeah.
that it's like it is all about mindset. Don't look at that enormous amount of time in front of you. Just keep tallying one day, one day, one day.
Yeah.
Keep adding one day to your bucket, and pretty soon you're you're surpassed it. You're surpassed the 12 weeks. And like I said, I'm starting the book again, so that's huge to
Yeah.
look at what you've already achieved. I don't care if it's a day, because when you're in that place, one day, whether you think it means a hill of beans to anybody or not, one day is huge.
Yeah, every day is huge.
Every
And,
day
and
is,
that's why we want to document the gratitude too,
yeah,
is to not take for granted that I slept better,
yeah,
to not take it for granted that I was calmer,
yeah,
to not take for granted that I had a good day at work. Um, yeah, it's noticing all these changes every day.
yeah.
And did you do all of the parts, the prayer, the gratitude, the
Yep.
reflection?
I to a T, I come out, I grab my tea, I say the Lord's Prayer, I list off my gratitude. Sometimes when you're going through it, sometimes the gratitude doesn't come as easy, especially if you're in a rough place.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if it's, oh my gosh, I love these warm fuzzy socks. It doesn't matter if it's something small. If it means something to you in any form, write it down.
Yeah, I mean, I remember doing eyes to see and
Yeah.
ears to hear because not everybody has that,
Yeah.
right? It's legs to walk. We can all find something. And I think the more you get in the habit of looking at what you have versus what you don't have,
Yeah.
the easier life becomes.
Yeah.
And
And
the
I
more,
don't think a lot of people think about, you are physically changing the dynamic of your brain
oh,
every
yes,
we talk about that, the neurological pathways, you're just because you may not be like experiencing something in your day around you, the things that are happening on the inside of you that you can't see, those are happening. Those are
right.
happening every day that you are free from alcohol and not putting that substance in your body.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's why there's 84 consecutive days
Yep.
doing the same thing,
Yeah.
retraining your brain.
Yeah. And I do believe it takes that long to really create that new habit and to solidify the new habit.
Yeah. I
So,
do too, and that's why there's plenty of people out there that are doing 30-day challenges, 7-day challenges, and I'm okay with that.
yeah,
I'm into the long term, because you've got to
yeah,
do a lot of that little stuff first to go, okay, I'm ready.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
so I'm at that place. I'm like, when you're ready, come try this.
yeah.
So, oh, Sarah, thanks. And I'm glad that we got another opportunity to actually re-record our conversation that happened but didn't get recorded
Yeah,
last.
I'm glad that this worked out the way it did for sure.
Yeah, God's good. God's good. Thank you for sharing your story and giving hope to so many others. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.